Okay, we are coming at you guys with a special NHL draft edition of the Empty Netters podcast, and we are joined by our boy Cam Robinson, who we met last year, which feels like yesterday, which is crazy. And you are an Elite Prospects legend. You've got all the inside info. And actually, right before we started recording, Cam told us that Celebrini was going to fall to the 8th pick. So, Cam, explain yourself.
Tell us why.
He's undersized, man. He got measured up at like 5'11 3/4. He's not even 6 foot. Like,
come on, dude.
Gonna drop like a stone, right? No, yeah.
We're gonna get Shane Wright all over again. This is gonna be a disaster.
Yeah. Who's picking at 8? Because that viewership just jacked up here.
Yeah, seriously, someone is so pumped up right now.
Right?
But dude, so we've got a ton to talk about. Lots of great prospects in this year's draft, and I want to just hear everything that you have, that you think, and what you're excited about. But before we even get into that, give us a quick rundown on how you got set up at Elite Prospects and how long you've been doing this stuff.
And the ins and outs of the gig, everything you're doing over there.
Yeah, so I got like the coolest job. I mean, you guys have a pretty cool job too. So maybe we might have to go like job for job here.
Yeah, exactly. Duke it out.
But I played the game obviously forever, and then I just started writing, and I was working for Dauber Prospects and Dauber Hockey doing like fantasy stuff. Ended up running those sites for a couple of years. Elite Prospects, my good buddy JD Burke started being the running that place over there, EP Rinkside, and called me up, offered me a gig, and kind of the rest is history. This year was the first year I could stop teaching, so I'm a school teacher by trade.
Oh wow, nice.
Was doing that for like 10 years.
What grade?
I mean, like I had a couple gigs. So my first and best job was I was the PE outdoor ed teacher for a private school.
Dude.
So just like cash to play with.
Yep.
And kids, like I would just play all day. Like they're like, do you have to lesson plan? I'm like, no, I just go and play soccer with these kids. Teach them how to play. Like it's the best. So that was cool. And then I was on like this remote island, and I was teaching. This is pretty wild. I was teaching grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all in one class.
Come on.
I was teaching them everything, including French, which I do not speak.
So you're like, you got like Duolingo open on one phone, and you're like, okay.
We're learning together, dude.
We were learning together, and we 100% used Duolingo as a team. Like I had a Duolingo account. We were all on Duolingo together. I'm like, how's everybody doing?
Yeah. Where was the island?
Yeah. So it's called Cortez Island, and it's like it's a little Gulf island. So like if you know Vancouver Island, which is like way West Coast, obviously, it's between Vancouver Island and the mainland sort of thing, where you have to take like 2 boats to get to civilization. Like there was no hockey rinks. There was like my son played hockey, and we would like every weekend we would leave, take 2 ferries, stay over in civilization with the bag, crush it out for the weekend, and come back and then run it again. Like that was how we had to do things. So we're back. We're off that island now, thankfully. And so now I just get to like watch hockey, make videos, fly to Finland or Sweden or Vegas or wherever it is to do fun stuff.
Yep.
Like half my job is just like becoming friends with as many GMs as I can, like, as many scouts as I can. And then like, going out, like trying to make memories and locking that in. Right. So it's,
dude,
go ahead, Dan.
It pumps me up to talk to you about this stuff, Cam. I was saying before we started recording, I'm so fired up about this episode because this is so up my alley. You have no idea. Like I will play FIFA and NHL, and I don't even play the games. I just like the manager mode. I just like drafting, creating a team, and like having that GM mind. And I've got to admit, part of me is we're duking out the who has the best job, and like I love this stuff that you get to do, and I feel like the draft must be like your Christmas day.
It's the best. It's like the culmination of literally like 11 months of work, sort of thing. Like we start in August. 10, 11 months. And the best part is like, especially the run we've been having here, like, Montreal, Nashville, now Vegas. Seriously. I'm not scouting. I'm not going to a barn and drinking bad coffee and like writing player reports afterwards. Right. I'm literally like, I'm going to Vegas to like hang out with you guys, make a couple videos, like shake some hands and kiss some babies, and just have a good time, right? Probably go way too hard on the Thursday and Saturday night as per usual.
As is tradition.
Everything as is tradition. Oh man. getting out of Nashville last year, like I don't know if I've been that hungover in like the last decade. It's like 105. Dude. My flight is just continually being delayed. I'm just trapped there for like an extra day, dying. Just be like, I just want a bed.
Dude, we've joked around so many times, especially after the cup run of Florida, Vegas, and all that. And then coming to Nashville for the draft, like 1 week later. And all of us sitting there on that last night of the draft, we were all together in like Aldean's, I think, and we were just being like,
"Yes, I was there."
Yeah. We were all just like, once more into the breach, my friends. Like this is just insane. So it is a party. I want to jump right in. Celebrini's obviously the consensus number one. Where do you? Or first of all, tell all the listeners like why you think that is a sure shot, and also, what do you like about his game, and also where do you compare him to some, former number one picks?
Yeah, it's a great call. Like he is just like, he's this unique power center. Like we were joking that he's under 6 foot, but like dude's already playing at like 2 bills. He's thick. Yeah. And as the youngest player in college hockey last year, 17 all year, he's running guys over like in open ice and the end wall. Like he is unafraid to get in there and be physical, and defensively too. He has like all this great nuance to his game where he stick lifts and he gets great body position. He takes great routes on the forecheck, on the back check. He's just like a thief in the night, coming back and lifting a stick and snaking the puck. And we're not even talking about his offensive game. Like the kid has, super quick hands. Mm-hmm. His hockey sense is through the roof. He can beat you from distance with the one-timer, in tight with the handles and getting the puck up, forehand, backhand. Like we gave him in our draft guide, we gave him shades of Sidney Crosby and Jonathan Taves. Like if those two had a baby, it would be Macklin Celebrini. Like yes, I'm fairly confident that's what it's going to be, right? Like it's going to be this guy that we're going to have highlights of him in his prime where it's just like guys can't take the puck off him, like sit behind the net, just like putting someone in the blender and they're just dizzy. He has that ability. Like he's going to completely change the complexion of the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in comparison to other players, someone asked me this a couple days ago too, and I put some thought into it, and it's like over the last since Matthews basically, so 2016, the only guys I would take over him for sure are Matthews and Bedard.
Wow.
Okay, and then let's have the discussion about Jack Hughes, who I love.
Yeah,
but it's like when you get Jack Hughes, you're getting that like supreme offensive talent, but like it's in a small body that can maybe get run over by Barkov in the playoffs or someone like this, right? Like some Nate Mack's gonna just have his way, whereas Celebrini is gonna be that Nate Mack sort of thing. So it's he's up there for sure.
I love that McKinnon comp. Sorry, Chris. I love that McKinnon comp because, like you said about Celebrini, sure, maybe he's not pushing over 6 feet, but his size, I love that for durability too. Because you look at Jack Hughes, one of our favorite players in the league. When you are kind of getting smaller, you get banged around a little bit. That leads to more injury. So the fact that he's 17 already with that much weight and moving the way he does, that's a huge sign.
Oh yeah.
And Cam, would you say, I think we're all in agreement that the future of his career is super, super bright. But you bring up Bedard, who we got so spoiled with in terms of immediate production. Like, bang, here you go. You're on the Hawks. Give me 30 goals. Can we expect that from Celebrini too? Like, is he going to be a guy that's going to produce immediately, or is it like we're expecting a bit of a learning curve?
Yeah, let's expect a bit of a learning curve. And like another curve in there is like, is he even in the show next year? Like I personally think like I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be a little surprised if he does go back. I mean, the kid just won the Hobie, right? Like he was the top collegiate player
17.
At 17 is like the youngest player to ever win the award or even be nominated for the award. Like it's just insane. What's he going to go back to do? Try to win a ship, right? But it's like you've accomplished all you can. But at the same time, Will Smith, their first rounder from last year, he's coming out of BC at Boston College. He's going to need some insulation for sure. He's not built like a truck, and he's going to have some adjustment to the NHL. And do they want to have two of those kids? Like if it was my money and I was San Jose, I'd be like, Will, you go back to school. We'll bring Mac out. And I guess it all depends on what Mike Grier does, right? Like he went and got Barclay Goodrow off waivers, and he'll try to insulate that team with some more veterans, and maybe it'll be fine. But personally, I think he's going to come out. But I mean, I don't think it's 100% that he's going to come out. And if he does, like, we'll pump the brakes a little bit. He's not going to pop 30 or be on a 40 goal pace like Connor. But he's going to, take that Nate. Well, even Mac had like 60 points his rookie year. Maybe that like Steven Stamkos route, where that first year as an 18-year-old, they're a young 18-year-old. It's like 25, 30 points. And we're like, whatever. Yeah. And then
no, the internet goes, he's a bust. I knew it. This is a disaster.
That's right. Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? It is almost with the Will Smith declaring situation. It's almost as if they've bought themselves a year of, it's not like a situation where Tyler Seguin lands with the Bruins at the second pick and the Bruins are immediately being like, listen, we're playing for a cup. San Jose is very much in a rebuild. They can sell jerseys and they can please the fans with being like, here's Will Smith. He was our 4th overall pick. This is going to be his rookie year. And you let Mac play one more year at BU. Eiserman will probably get up there playing with him at BU. And then, boom, you bring him in the next year. And it's almost like you've got a 1st overall pick joining the team next year. It's like you've bought yourself this year of excitement to go like, this is the Will Smith year. Next year is the Celebrini year. That's a pretty good situation.
And then maybe they're bringing in 2 first overall picks,
truly,
right? Like they could bottom out, and maybe it's like, here's Celebrini and James Haggins, everybody, and they just like waltz them into the. So like that it's possible. If I just worry about him, stagnating a little bit in college. I mean, he's so young though that it's like
I know, yeah.
It's tough. It is a bit of a tough decision. If I was putting any money on, I'd say he's going to be in San Jose, just because part of that is selling to the fans.
Oh, totally.
Right? They want to sell tickets, and I'm not sure how much Will Smith will move the needle, despite like how offensively gifted he is. I don't think that'll have enough cachet like Celebrini will. But speaking of Eiserman too, like maybe they snap him up with their second first at 14. Dude. Right, and get the best, get the stepbrothers gifts going, right? Like they're just best buddies having a good time.
If he's there's a part of my mind that's like, in what world do you not take him? Like I feel like you have to take him. But God, if Celebrini comes to the show and next year, let's just say that Will and Celebrini light it up and they're both in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Like think about UFAs next summer when you're like, Jesus Christ, look at San Jose. They've got these 2 it's literally Kane and Taves all over again. And you're kind of like, holy shit, like this is unbelievable.
That's why I think he will. I don't know, you agree, but I think because some of the other BC boys stayed, right? Like Leonard and Gabe, and I was like, oh shit, Will might stay because he's got unfinished business in a way too, right? So I'm like, Will might stay, and then if he does, I bet Macklin would stay too because it's like, oh, let's all go together. But now that Will's going, I bet Mac goes. That would be my guess.
Yeah, and like personally, I thought Will Smith should have stayed. Like, he put up he had the gaudy point totals, but like he's not dominating college hockey all the time, and he is a little undersized, still a little thin. Like I thought he could have gone back, and it would have been, and then like Boston College would have just been like a unit. Like it would have been nuts, right?
Oh my god,
with Haggins coming in too, right next year as well. Like they might win it without him. Like they could go in.
True.
This is going to be the first BU first overall, right? Because Jack went 2, and that was actually was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, just off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone.
So, but my point being, it's pretty cool thinking about, you're going to have Macklin here is going to be the highest BU pick of all time. Obviously, like I just said, Jack went 2, but then you got Owen Power, and you go down the list, and it's like we're getting a lot of these. Like Fance was, he went 3, but still, like college hockey in the last several years is getting some pretty high picks, and it's pretty cool seeing NCAA being right up there with OHL, WHL, and Europe as like these are some of the best prospects in the world.
Dude, NCAA is like one of my favorite leagues to like cover and to watch, and like developmentally, I think it is spot on. Like, the only knock on it is like it doesn't prepare the players for an NHL schedule like the CHL does, where they play their 70 games or whatever, 68 games, where you're playing, but I love that in college hockey, it's like during the week is for classes, chatting up birds and working out. And then you play on the weekend, and then you start all over again. Like, I don't know about you guys. I loved university. Like my kid, like he's playing, like there's no way he's going junior. Like you're going NCAA if you're good enough. Like that's the only path. And now with them, like giving that NIL money, like it's a no brainer.
I think it's a total no brainer. And it's interesting. Like you just said, I'm curious how many more Canadian kids we're going to start seeing going to NCAA over junior. Because, I mean, listen, junior's a blast too, but it's like college life, especially if you are playing with some of the best players in the world, which is the case right now. I'm like, go to college, man. Like that shit is so
have
fun.
A good time,
right?
Yeah,
and like,
it's like it's unmatched.
You look at a lot of these coaches too. Like, there's so many NCAA coaches who are making the jump to AHL, NHL. It's like you are in a good system for success. It's really cool to see. Really cool.
Yeah,
to see.
I agree. Yeah.
Dan, Rick DiPietro.
Of course.
First overall.
Of course.
BU legend, eh?
Yeah. Forgot about it.
Wow.
He's still getting paid.
I know.
That guy's still getting paid. I respect the hell out of that.
Holy
So good.
shit, Chris. I
So
forgot
good.
about that. So, yeah, this is the second BU first overall
Yep.
pick ever. Macklin Celebrini and Rick DiPietro.
DiPietro, baby.
What a
Man, oh,
collection.
man.
What a collection.
Cam,
The wildest thing about that DiPietro pick is they took Luongo 4th overall like 3 years earlier too. They're like,
Dude.
we'll just toss this guy to Florida for nothing and we'll keep DiPietro.
yeah.
Oh,
What a
man.
call.
Right?
Real
What a
stuff.
call. Yeah.
Cam, last year at the draft, we were sitting there, and I after, in hindsight, talking to some people in the know, it wasn't as shocking as it was to probably us, talking about me and Dan sitting there. But there was a bit of a surprise at 2 last year. Fantilli seemed like the for sure pick, and then the Ducks call out Leo. This year, all the mocks I'm looking at, we look pretty set 1-2. Do you agree, or could something unexpected happen at 2?
The draft starts at 2. It starts at 2
Wow,
for
okay.
sure. For
Really?
sure
Not
it
3?
starts at 2. No, it starts at 2. And like, Levshinov is the safe pick at 2 for Chicago, right? They've targeted these like smaller, super skilled players up front. They've got Frankie Nazar, obviously Bedard. They've got Reichel. They got Oliver Moore for their second first round. They were trying to move up like a bunch of ways to get more, and then he just fell to them at 19. So they prioritized that. So now they're like, we've got Kevin Korchinski, we got Alex Vlasic on the blue line, but like they want probably a pillar back there.
Yeah.
But I'm told that down there in Florida, when Gold Star Danny Milstein, he had his little camp here, and Demidov showed up looking, showing that dump truck, looking thick, right? Look bigger than expected because, like, he was rated
squats, dude. He's doing
right. He was doing burpees out there with you. Hell yeah. He, because like we're getting these stats, these measurements from his club team, and they're like, yeah, he's 5'10", 168, 5'11", 168, whatever they said. And it's like, he might be like 5'9" and a half and like 160 pounds. Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know, especially coming out of Russia. Like, you don't know if it's like coming out of the CHL.
Yeah.
But at least you can like,
dude. Yeah.
He could be 100. Yeah. But like, at least in the CHL, like you can go up to the player after the game and I'm like, I can stand beside them. When I do videos with people do that. Be like, I'm like the benchmark to see if guys are lying about their height.
Yeah,
like,
right.
how tall are you? So he shows up there looking, he's going to play at 6'1". He's going to play at 200 pounds. This kid's Kirill Kaprizov. Yeah. So are you going to take Artem Levshinov, who for my money is like not a slam dunk number 1 D? It's like,
okay.
It's like he's probably a top pairing D, maybe. Like I'm not even willing to put like a stamp of approval being like that guy's a top pairing D. So are you going to take someone like that, or are you and miss out on attaching Kirill Kaprizov next to Connor Bedard? I don't know, man. I don't know. So I think a lot of teams are thinking that too.
So you don't think that they're pot committed to D? Because like Saleyev is in the KHL is like, I feel like he's top 5 mentioned all the time too. But like, you think Demidov is that good that if they're gonna pass up on Levshinov, they're just gonna go right Demidov and just take
and
it?
It's all because of Fort Lauderdale.
And it's all because of that dump truck ass, dude. I don't
dump truck.
I don't
right.
Blame him,
he's
dude.
working that thing, and also like he showed up. He could speak English. Like so, my boy Sean Shapiro, he was down there for us at DP ringside, and he's like, I was blown away by how well this kid's English was, and he was like working on it. He's like, I want, and so he fully just said, he's like, I'm gonna play in the K next year. They're not gonna blacklist him again back to the minors. I'm going to play. I'm going to finish my season. I'm going to sign my contract. I'm going to be in the show at the end of like the spring of 25. And it's like, what's the problem? Like we just like, I don't know if you guys saw, but Mishkov is coming, right? He just fully canceled that deal and he's coming over, right? And so the only reason he didn't go 2 to Anaheim last year is because of that contract.
I know.
So, if now Demidov is saying that, like personally, I got Demidov 3 on my board. I did release it before I saw the new weight and everything, but still I love Caden Lindstrom, but like just the possibility of putting Bedard and him together, like it'd be insane. It'd be so good.
So wait, who is 2 on your board? Is it Levshinov?
No. I got him. I think I've got him 5. It's Caden Lindstrom.
You have Caden at 2.
Monster. He's a monster, man.
Wow.
He's gonna be like, I had Quentin Byfield number 1 on my list back in that Lafreniere draft, and I was like the only one, and I took so much shit for it. And I was just like, no, like this kid is unique. Like you get a 6'4", 220-pound center who can fly and like the small area game. I had a WHL like a high-end prospect. He's like, do not say that this was me. He's like, he is the toughest matchup in junior hockey. Like it is insane. Really? This kid's skill in small area. Like he is just a monster. And like, you're going to lengthen out that kid's stride, and he's already mean and he hits like a truck. You're going to like, no one's going to match up with him.
Okay, this is a perfect segue, Cam. We're going to ask you about some of your sleepers, but hold those for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Lindstrom right now is a perfect segue into like, who are some of your favorite prospects here? I loved what you just said there. Like, draft starts at 2. So like, if we're kind of up in the air here, if we're up in the air here from 2 on, who are some of your favorite guys?
Well, I was just glazing all over Caden Lindstrom here. So obviously, I think he's my favorite. He's my favorite, and just like a peach of an individual too. Like, you're bringing him home to mom, and you're feeling good about it.
Yeah,
like he's a swell kid. Like, yeah, right, and you want that. So I love that kid. TJ Ginla.
Oh, I know, man. I know.
Tej is my boy. Like, I was over there in Finland, and like, unsurprising coming from that family. Like, Jerome, also just like one of my favorite humans.
Sure.
I spent so much time like hanging out. Like, we're running into each other like outside of the barn route. I'm convincing Jerome to eat reindeer out in Helsinki. I'm like, let's go. Dave Nonis is like, I'm doing it. We're all getting in on it, and so we're eating reindeer. And I flew back with these guys. So I was talking to him as like a scout. And talking to TJ, he's like so gracious and like, appreciative of, and like, just like a polite, right? Exactly.
Like, of course he is. Look who his dad is. Like, it's
exactly
just
right.
Like the biggest no-brainer of all time.
Yeah. So as a human being, just like a stand-up guy, but like, holy smokes, like this kid is also electric.
Yeah,
like his offensive skills are like super high end. And then he's just like developed this, similar to what I was saying about Celebrini. Like, he's so, the details in his game, like on the forecheck, in zone, stealing pucks, battling, body position, getting in the defensive zone, playing hard defense. Like, he's going to play. He was already saying, he's like, I think I'm going to move back to the middle of the ice next year for Kelowna. And it's like, yeah, I can see that. Like, everyone's kind of wondering, like, is Berkeley Catton big enough to play center? It's like, no. Is TJ Ginla good enough to move to the middle and play there long term? Yeah, I think he is. So I love TJ. I put him 4, which I thought I was going to be the highest one. And then Craig Button dropped him 3, and I'm pretty sure he just did that to spite me. So Craig and I are like throwing hands in Vegas here in a couple days,
dude. Because he's just trying to get in with Jerome. You like you were like,
right?
oh, I'm tight with the Iginlas.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I'm tight with the Iginlas. Yes,
right. I'm still waiting for the invite to the summer cottage with Jerome and the gang, but we'll see, right?
You're gonna have to bump him up to 2 for that, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
it's so funny, Cam, because I watching him play, he is a player. It's like, it was so many times I feel like if you haven't seen a lot of these prospects play, you hear a name like that, and you're like, yeah, I mean, okay, sure, he's high up, but like, I wonder how much of that is because of Jerome. But then you watch him play and you're like, holy shit, this kid can move. He's got tons of offensive talent. And I've seen so many boards that have him at 9 across the board. It's like, yeah, he's just going to go to Calgary. And I'm like, there's no fucking chance this kid falls to 9. Like, he's just too good.
Like, here's something. Every year I do like these 5 bold predictions, and I drop it like a day before the draft. And so this year I'm spinning a little fun where I'm going to do my 5. And then I've been like texting a bunch of like executives and stuff and being like, what are your bold predictions? And so I'm going to grab the 5 best of that one. Yeah, I'm stoked for it. And I'm just going to like let the cat out of the bag on one of them here. 3 guys have said Tej falls to Calgary at 9 and they pass. Is their bold prediction. And they pass. And I was like, so like, that's going in the article, but like, like, holy smokes, like that would be, I mean, like, I guess like if they don't think he's a center and they need center and they need D depth, they need pieces in those positions. But like, are you afraid he can't handle the pressure of being in a Ginla in Calgary? Cause like, I guess that would be the only thing that would really give me pause, is like, if you checked out the character and the ability to withstand kind of that pressure everywhere, internal and external, and you're like, no, I don't think this kid could handle it. But like, I don't know. I mean, I know him a little bit, and to me, it seems like he would be like ready to take on the challenge.
Yeah. Talk about,
he doesn't have to be his dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about fans riding though. Like if he gets to 9 and then they pass on him, the fans will go fucking ape shit in Calgary.
Especially, and I don't know how the board will break, but especially because it feels like there could be 4 D guys gone before then, and then you're kind of reaching a little bit, not a reach, but it's just like, that would be crazy if it fell that way. My God. It would
be crazy. And especially like, like there could be a crazy D run, like right at 2 to 6. Like we could see that be like straight D.
Yeah.
And then they're like sitting there, then Demidov's probably gone, whatever. And then it's like, you got to take him at that spot if that's what's cooking. But
Cam, maybe Caden and Tej are answers to half of this, but everybody's looking at the mock draft. For the most part, it's like the top, 12 are mostly the same names in a jumbled order, So who give us 1 or 2 names that you think could go much higher than people are thinking, and give us 1 or 2 names that you think could go much lower. And I don't mean like free fall. I just mean like you're seeing them 3 and they're going to go 9 type deal.
Yeah. I think like Constant Hellenius has gotten a lot of buzz this year, and like he's very good to go up. Like, but like, so that was where kind of the projection throughout the season was like, this kid's going to climb up. Like, he's just so smart, and he's just like, he exposes weaknesses in the defense. He won't wow you with his speed or his skill or his size, but he just like makes things happen everywhere on the ice. Played the whole season in the Liga, played at the World Championships. But, I think he could slide because he showed up to the U18s. It was in Finland. Obviously, they wanted him, their best player, to be there. So they sent him home from the World Championship camp where he was looking good. And he didn't want to be there. Like, he was like, it looked like he was checked out. And like talking to like scouts and GMs, they're like, everyone's like, like I know one team, they came strictly to watch him.
Oh, wow.
And they were not impressed. They were not impressed with the effort. And then he went to the Worlds and he was in and out of the lineup. He didn't really do much. And so like he had kind of a sour taste, I think, to end his season, where someone like Tej had like this terrific end of the season and then a great U18s too, where he really kind of shone a light on all his varied skill set. So I think Hellenius, it could be one of these guys that like some people are mocking at like, or even ranking at like 6, 7. I could see him being there at 12, 15,
really,
sort of thing.
I could see it. I've been seeing him going at like 13 a lot to Minnesota, but I've heard a lot.
I don't think that.
I've heard. Oh yeah, you don't think so?
I don't think so. I think if they were going to take a center, they'd take a hard center, someone like Brandsig Nygaard.
Yeah.
Do you think he might?
Yeah, I do. And I think they chased Charlie Stramel last year, and like Guerin fully I asked him the question in the scrum right after the draft, Charlie Stramel, you guys left a little bit of value on the board there, and he's like, he said I jumped the list, and I was like, wait a minute. Like the GM just we know GM makes the first pick, but like most of them will go off the list. They come to an agreement that they're like, this is the best. Then they did, and he's like, no, I jumped over a couple guys. I wanted the power center, and like Charlie Stramel, maybe he's a 4th liner. I don't even know if that guy's an NHLer, and they took him in the 20s, and so they were like, Gabe Pro, we're leaving him. Oliver Bonk, the players, guys that look like they're going to be serious players. They left sitting there to chase Charlie Stramel, and it didn't work. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were still looking for that hard center, like Marco Rossi's not that hard center. Like they can't really rely on that. So a kid like Brandsig Nygaard, I could see.
I like that Nygaard call for Minnesota, but I want him to fall to Detroit so bad. I want to keep I was born in Norway, but he's playing in Sweden. I like the Sweden vibes. It's just it's such a typical thing for
Feels
Detroit.
Like the Wings, yeah.
It does, but I bet you they wouldn't take him because
no way.
They took Nate Danielson last year, which was a reach on a player very similar, and then they took Marco Kasper the year before, also a very similar player. So it's like, are you just going to load your team up with these middle 6 centers? It's like, I don't know. So if it was me and I'm Detroit and Stevie Y, he doesn't give a fuck, right? Yeah. So if I was him, I'd be like, I'll just take Trevor Connolly because he's got the elite skill, but he's got all this off-ice drama and noise around him. But Eiserman, he doesn't care. He'll just do whatever he wants. So just infuse some talent in.
Give me a defenseman that you really like that you could see maybe climbing up the board.
Well, I won't say that I really like him, but I like him enough, and I think that he could climb is Carter Yakimchuk.
Okay.
So plays for the Calgary Hitmen.
You're high on him because that's the guy I was talking about a second ago when I was like, if the 4 guys go and the Flames are like, oh, are we reaching? But if you love him, maybe it's not a reach at all.
I wouldn't say I love him.
Sorry, but he
he played for the Hitmen, so it's it wouldn't have been hard for Todd Button and Craig Conroy to go down the road and watch him play. Hell, they play at the Saddledome half the time anyway.
Yeah, seriously.
Right. So he's a 6'3" right shot defenseman.
Yeah, he's a big boy
who handles the puck like he's Mitch Marner. I think I'm pretty sure it was my buddy Mitch Brown here who he literally outmaneuvers and he manipulates more than most top end forwards. His highlight pack is just him, just walking guys coming down off the blue line and sniping these goals. He popped 30, I think. He's got his deficiencies on the defensive side of things, but you might have John Carlson, right? You might have that level of player. And so, Corey Pronman, he's super tapped in. And whenever he puts a player really, really high up his board, and I think he's got Yakimchuk 3, you can probably feel pretty safe to think that there's some teams that really like him that high too. Because I tell you, going to these events, Corey's just sitting there like every scout who walks by is like, oh, hey, Corey, like goes and shakes his hand. Like I've been doing this for a few years now. And like, I'm working up, I maybe know like 30% of them, 40% of them. And he's got like, it's just like, and he's just like, oh, hey.
Yeah.
So he's tapped in.
Before we get into your sleepers, I want to ask about Cole Eiserman, because I feel like before last year, he was sort of a consensus top 3 pick going into this draft. And now I'm seeing him pretty much across the board out of the top 10.
Yeah.
What do you think went on there?
I mean, he went on. He did what he does, and it's like when he has the puck, everybody knows what's going to happen. He's going to shoot it, and he's going to shoot it regardless of if there's a better passing option, regardless of if there's shin pads in the way. And he does have that innate ability that it's like at this level, he'll fire the puck and it just finds holes. Like I could be trying to pick a corner that's wide open and I might not hit it. And this guy's just like finding holes through traffic. So like he is an electric goal scorer. The one timer, the big wind up wrist shot that he's got where he whips it from the back end, the quick snapper. I was watching him at practice. Like he was just for like 20 minutes, just like working on the little forehand backhand roof.
Yep.
Backhand forehand roof, like, from like the goal mouth, like just like he puts a lot of time and effort into his craft and he's very good at it. And that's the reason he's the all-time leading goal scorer with the program, which is like no small feat, right? There's been some players.
Yeah, think about the people who've come through there. I mean, like that's
right.
That's a big deal.
The best pure goal scorer in the draft.
He is the best pure goal scorer in the draft. Yes, he is. And so like that alone is going to keep him in that top 15 because it's like you could have a 40 goal scorer, like maybe a 50 goal scorer. Like if you partner him up with the right guy, like you could have that. But, he is infuriating sometimes with like his effort levels. Like, he'll just float back or he'll just like lose coverage in the defensive zone or he'll take a dumb penalty. But he also has this power forward game that I'm like really intrigued with because he's not small either, right? Like he's already playing at 200 pounds too. And like, he can get a little mean. And like when he gets fired up and like the feet are moving and like he'll catch guys with their head down in open ice, like he'll bury a defender coming around the net, like Rafi Torres style, right? Like just come sweeping around and catch him, like he'll do that. And I'm like, yes, like let's get that, So I watched him probably like 8 or 10 times live this year and then like double that on film. And it took until the end of the year for probably the best showing I'd had of him was in like the semifinal in that U18 World Championships where I was like, let's get this Cole Eiserman. Yeah. And then you have yourself a player. But if he doesn't and he pisses off his coaches and he, ends up getting traded, like I thought this was interesting. I had one, I think it was a scout say to me that it kind of reminds him of JT Miller, completely different players, but in the sense that like Miller was a high pick, mid-teens or whatever he was, big body, lots of skill. And he just couldn't figure it out right away, right? In New York, he's just like, he's out partying and he just like wasn't putting the effort on the ice and he gets dealt and he goes to Tampa and he's like sort of figuring out and now he's a 100-point guy in Vancouver. Yeah. So it's like it might take 2 or 3 teams for Eiserman to figure it out too, right?
Do you feel like you see a little bit of Line A in him?
Line is so like enigmatic, right? Like he's just like, he's
literally hard to read.
Right. He's a villain from Die Hard. Like he's just, I can't get like, and Eiserman, like you can at least see the emotion. Like he gets mad. He gets like frustrated. Like he actually has human emotions. But that is not a terrible comp. Like Line A looked like he was going to be like a generational goal scorer.
Yeah,
right? And he probably still is. It's just like, they just have to unlock it, unearth it. And so, Eiserman, I don't actually, he's probably not that good at goal scorer. Like Line A, I was like, crazy.
Yeah.
He's crazy. Like he can score just like in the NHL, he can just be like, I'll just rattle off 15 goals in 6 games. Like no problem.
What's so scary about that situation, like that assessment of Eiserman is like, when we talk about it might take a few teams, it's like, that's such a risky pick. If you think that that's a reality, it's like, maybe he gets picked by the right team right away. He's surrounded by the right veterans and the right coaching and it gets figured out, but it sucks that that's a maybe, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Which is why you like think that it's like some team that has multiple 1st-round picks. And so like, I keep coming back to San Jose because not only would it make sense because Celebrini and him are best buddies, they tore up Shattuck together. And like Eiserman looked like he was going to be the better player back then. Like he way outscored him, way outpoint him. Like they won a ship together. I think it was like the U15 at Shattuck's and they won the national championship and Eiserman was the better player. And then, Matt kind of took over. I think they played together at the Brick when they were like 10 too. Like hilarious. They've been rocking it for a while. Right. Yeah. So like, you know, to have that best buddy combo, but then like also it's like, imagine to take that pressure off him. If he's like the first round pick for, I don't know, like Buffalo or Philly or something like that. I guess they got Mishkov coming. Let's say like Detroit. And so he's like the shiny new cookie coming in and everyone's like, well, this is our first round pick. And then there's all that pressure on him when he comes out of school and it's like all magnified. And if he doesn't produce, but if he goes to San Jose, he's like number 3 or 4 on the totem pole. Like he can like kind of quietly come in, figure things out, and then maybe him and Celebrini get linked up long term and then make magic. So, so if I'm my career, like I'm tempted for sure. If it's me,
like, are you tempted to move up even? Like, let's say, what are there, 14 and he's sitting there and it's 12. Are you like, go get him, dude, or not that tempted?
I wouldn't be that tempted because like, I mean, like I think I've got him like 15, 16. So that's the kind of that like sweet spot for me. And like at the same time, like if I did have 2 firsts and then I'm like, you know, then I can take that pressure off of him a little bit. And you can almost like, you're not throwing away a pick, but you're like, we already got Celebrini.
Yeah.
This draft class is set, right? You know, like we, you know, if we miss on this one, it's not the end of the world. Versus like St. Louis is like, we need to get him and we need him to be good. Right. So depending on who I am, but yeah, I don't know about trading up. I'm not a big fan of trading up in the draft primarily, unless it's like pretty cheap, which it usually isn't. Like I'm a bigger fan of sliding back, you know, slipping back 2 spots and getting a free second. Like just like give me that all day. I'd do that all day long. I would just like drop back a spot, drop back 2 spots, and just get all these darts. But I mean, that's a classic scout. And then I can have like 5 second rounders to just like take a bunch of Hail Marys. Exactly right.
I will say though, Cam, if I'm Philly or Minnesota at 12 and 13 and Eiserman's still on the board, I am calling Greer. And I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
Like
that's true.
If I don't want him, I'm like, I'm just saying, Eiserman's here. If you want him.
Yeah, that's not bad.
You know?
And San Jose probably has, like, I'm not sitting at their cap friendly page, but they probably have some extra picks, right? Like Chicago has way too many picks right now, which is like Chicago's picking at 18 again, right? It's like, so let's say they do go Levshunov, right? Let's say they're like, okay, we'll take the steady pick here. We'll be safe. And then they're picking at 18. Well, maybe they start to like, maybe we slip up and grab Cole Eiserman because it's like, wonder what Bedard feeding him the puck could turn into.
Yes.
Right. And that's the type of player he's going to need, like that elite playmaker to really unlock his potential.
Yeah. Bedard shot 30 times a game this year though. So having those 2 out there would be fucking hilarious. I'm like, hey,
somebody's shooting. Yeah.
Cam, how many guys you think from the dev program, you were talking about the program with Cole, how many guys do you think from the program go in the first round? Because Teddy maybe, EJ maybe.
I guess 2, I would say. I love EJ Emery if we were talking about guys that I like a lot. Big fan of EJ from Tawasin. BC boy playing at the program though, right? Old man used to play for the CFL. I think he played for the Lions. Just another like great kid and like just an athlete, like literally jumped out of the box at the combine. They have to change the length of the broad jump now because he jumped it and broke the record by so much. And he's just shredded. Like this kid is an athlete for sure.
He's an animal.
I love him. Oh, he is. And like people kind of really knock him because he doesn't have the offense. But it's like, I think it's I mean, he didn't score a fucking goal this year. Although he did remind me, he scored one at the All-American game, the Bios, and I was like, it's not on your EP page, so I don't know. But it doesn't count. But I think there's more to unlock with him too. So like if it was me and I'm Chicago, I'd probably go Demidov at 2. And then go like EJ or Stein Solberg, and then have him like as your Chris Tanev, right? Like that's who he projects, like that level of player where it's like, you don't need him to put up 35, 40 points. You need him to like teams actively game plan away from Tanev on his side because he just like crushes the rush.
Yeah.
And they do the same at the junior level. Like I had another team's coach at the U18s like say that they're like, we have it set up to like attack Cole Hudson's side. Like we stay as far away from EJ Emery as we can because he's just like, he just neutralizes you so quickly. So I think those 2 for sure are going. It's like,
you think Teddy Stiga can make it in the first round?
I think he can, but I don't think he will.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the same way. I'm like, he's like, there was those teams picking last 4. I'm like, I could see it, but
you could see it.
Yeah. No,
he's just kind of like this like nondescript dude, right? Like, he's not big. He's not super fast. He's like just crazy tenacious. And like, you know, him and Hagens like had like great chemistry together. And like Hagens is such an elite player, but he like brought out more from him, which is like cool at this level. But it's like, I don't know. He's not going to get that opportunity in the NHL. Like he's just not talented enough to play on a first line, I wouldn't say, unless he's like going to be like the Alex Burrows of, you know, wherever he lands. But so I like him. I like him as a player. I like him as a kid, like seems like a really good kid too. But I think that teams are probably looking at him as a day 2 guy.
Nice. Okay, I want to hear your sleepers now.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe like a steal, a first round steal, and then also like a later round steal sleeper. So maybe 2. Yeah.
Okay. If we're talking like pure upside, which I'm a big fan of, Dean Letourneau.
No way. Okay.
So-
Okay. I
Okay.
like this.
So playing at St. Andrews College,
Yep.
he's playing prep school. He's 6'7". He's got a 7-foot wingspan. A 7-foot wingspan. Like that's an eagle. Like it's huge, right? It's insanity.
Yeah.
And an albatross, yeah. And he handles the puck like he's a 5'10" winger. Like he has these like super soft hands. He has like great it's cool to have hands, but like he knows how to manipulate. He knows how to fake guys a little bit. And like you watch his tape, and it's like, yeah, he got a little bored playing at that level. It's like he was way, way too good for that level.
Sure.
And then he jumped up and he played like 2 games in the USHL, and it's like, yeah, that tape didn't pop. It's like airlift anybody into a higher league and their new team, and it's like I'm not expecting anything. I like that he's going to college right away. I think it's a sweet move because he would have just gone to the USHL next year and then done the same shit he was doing this year because he can.
Yeah.
Where I want him to go and be challenged to be like, now you need to use your body and your skills in a productive way that can be translatable to the NHL. So he's a bit of a weight, I think. He'll probably put up like 15 points next year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he'll be like, oh, here's a point a game. And like, maybe he goes, depends on what team drafts him. Maybe he goes back for a 3rd year and like runs show and then comes out. Like he could be Tage Thompson.
I was going to say,
Like,
do you think he has like Tage potential? Because that's the body comp for sure. That's the body comp.
Yeah. And we see Tage like, Filipovich will do those, like he loves Tage so much. And he does these mashups of him just like dancing in traffic, right? Like literally dancing and everyone's missing. And like, that's the kind of stuff that I think Letourneau he's a risk.
Yeah.
Because it's like the level that he's played at, it's like, you don't know how he's going to react to like stiffer competition. But I think if I'm picking in the 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, I'm taking a cut, especially if I'm a team that's like, I'm challenging for a cup. Like, let's go. Like, let's maybe this kid in 3 years will be our next wave that can come in and like help us because our prospect pool is so light. Or if you're a day 2 guy, it's like, if you're San Jose, you're like, let's throw this kid a chip here, right? At the early second round and take a big old cut. So Letourneau, I do like. I'll drop one more name too that I'm high on the back end is Dominic Badinka.
I love Badinka.
Okay.
Badinka. I think he's going first round, no question.
I think so too. I think
love
so too.
Badinka. I think he's such a good player.
Yeah, and he hasn't had like any juice this year. Like nobody's talking about him really, but he played like almost the entire season in the SHL, and he just did what he had to do. Like you don't often play on the blue line in the SHL as a draft eligible kid, but he did, and he played it well. And then when they dropped him down to the J20, the skills pop, right? Against his age group, and I mean, guys 2 years older than him still. Then the skills really jump off the page. So I think a 6'3" right shot defender. He has really strong defensive instincts. So it's like, it's not going to be a huge jump for him to get to the AHL and then to the NHL. I really think he could grow into like a top 4 role. So I like you. I think that there's NHL teams are too smart to probably let him slip.
Yeah.
But publicly, he's not really considered a first rounder on many people's lists.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Before we get into some deeper questions, there's something that kind of has been very clear to me the last couple of years. And a lot of the mocks that I'm looking at, not a single Q player on there. And what do you think it is about the Q that has just made it, I mean, let's be honest, kind of drop off like that? It used to be one of the leagues that was like a lot of the guys coming out of the first round are playing in the Q. And now it's kind of like this afterthought league as far as prospects in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because like it's not as good. Like we can just be honest about the league is just not as good as it was, and it's not as good as the WHL and the OHL. It's just not. But like what's really funny about that is until this year, they like kept winning all the Memorial Cups.
Dude,
like, they would still like it's like what like last year I was at the Mem Cup last year, and it's like it was a big old snooze fest. Because like Quebec, they just like the Remparts with Patrick Wall on the bench, they were just like stifling defensively. Yeah. And so that's how they won it, right? They just like won it through defense. And I was so bored. But it was cool, I guess. And then this year we got like London and Saginaw. It was just like a shootout on home ice, which was a great time. I was really going for my boy Stink Oven. They're hosting it in loops, and I want him to win it.
Totally.
But like it's just like they don't, outside of these teams that end up winning it, they don't play great defense. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's more open. It's softer. You know, they don't play like a physical style. And this is broad strokes. Obviously, there's players in the queue that play hard defense and like play a little dirty even. And, you know, there are guys who have hard skill. But yeah, it's taken a hit in recent times. And I'm not sure if it's like coaching, you know, the setups that they're using, like if it's a mandate from the league, like obviously they don't want fighting in that league anymore. But, you know, like Justin Poirier scored 50 goals this year, right? Like he's going to go in the third round to Carolina probably because they're just like, we'll take a cut on high upside and see what happens. Right. But I don't think I have a guy in the queue on my board in the top 60.
Yeah. Wow. Like it's crazy to think.
Yeah.
And then, so on the other side, when you look at leagues like the OHL, the WHL, do you notice, like over the last few years, have you noticed any teams in particular that you think are just good feeder teams? Like they and their program and their system produces good players in the league. So when you get to those rounds like 3, 4, 5, and you're kind of more in this like, all right, yeah, like we're going to take a shot on some people. Are there any players, or rather, are there any teams where you see a player who's playing for London or something, for example, that you're like, I'm between this guy, and since he plays for London, I'm going to take him because I believe in that system.
Yeah, well, you said London, and that's the one. Like teams love drafting guys out of London, right? And it's like kind of twofold, where it's like they get to almost like hand pick who plays for them because they're the London Knights. And so teams will like actively say like, I want to play for London. Don't even draft me. And so then they'll like get these gimme picks. It's like, you know, Panarin's like, I'm only going to play for the Rangers. And Adam Fox is like, yeah, keep trading for me. I'm not signing with you until you trade me to New York. So that's the London Knights are that in the OHL. Sure. So, you know, obviously they're an elite feeder league. You know, out West, it's like, it kind of changes. It's like ever evolving, I would say, but there's like Moose Jaw is like a surprisingly like quality organization that keeps producing. Like Denton Mateychuk is going to be a beauty. Like people are about to be exposed to Denton Mateychuk as he turns pro this year.
Love that.
And another just like ace of a kid too. So you know, Moose Jaw, they're a good team. You know, like the Rockets used to get that love, but now they don't so much anymore. You know, Kamloops has had a run where they, you know, they get some love. Like Spokane, like it really kind of moves around. I'd say a little bit. Like Portland's had a good run of you know, being a feeder league, and then they drop off and they come up. But it's all cyclical in junior hockey too, right? But the stability with ownership. They'll like, you know, some of these organizations just constantly have former NHL bench bosses, right? Like nobody wants to draft from the Victoria Royals. It's like they have been so bad every year, and they just like a revolving door of coaches, and it just sucks because it's the closest dub team I have too. So whenever I go watch games there, it's just like, which I'm like, what am I even getting out of this? Like the team that comes in just like manhandles them every time, and they all look like studs, and I'm like, oh, fuck. So you know, so there's definitely teams that like organizations would be like, why we're not drafting.
See, like that's
like so good.
Those are interesting things to know. So going into this draft, is there a team that you think more than others is like, we have to have a good draft? Who do you think is the biggest pressure on them? And you know, it'd be easy to be like San Jose, they have the first round pick, but like, give me a fucking break. They're going to take Macklin. Is there any team that you're like, they're going into this draft with a lot of emphasis, wanting to have a good return? Yeah.
I mean, like, so that really comes down to like those lottery picks too, right? Because it's like, if you're picking at 19, it's like, I got to do really good, but it's like, odds are you're probably not. So if we're looking top 10, I think this is a big draft for Calgary. You know, we talked about them already. I think this is a big draft for Calgary. They are clearly rebuilding. They have 2 first rounders too, right? So they've got Vancouver's late first as well. So I think this is a really important draft for them. Utah, they're going to make a splash, right? They have to make a splash, whether that's making a good pick or trading the pick.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's some pressure on them. And the Habs.
Yeah.
You know, they skipped Mishkov last year, where it was like, you could see that this year's class was coming with a lot of like potential high-end defensemen, where you could have gone Ryan Leonard and had the American kid who projects to be like a tough as nails, skilled NHLer, or you could have taken the big old cut on Matvei Mishkov and been like, there's our future like cornerstone up front to go with some of these guys we got, and then take the D next year. But instead they went Reinbacher, who's looking like, you know, he's going to be, we'll see. And now there's all this pressure on them to like, now you have to get the forward.
Yeah.
Carey Price couldn't even remember him, dude. You know? Like,
yeah, dude.
that was tough, eh? That was tough.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
All right, here's mine for you. I think Ottawa, dude. I think Ottawa has a ton of pressure. They got 7-25, and let's be honest, Ottawa was a massive letdown this season. So many people, including you, Chris, idiot, picked them to make the playoffs, and they were just like so brutal. And now you got looks like Chikrin's like, I want to get out of here, which is so insane because that trade felt like, oh, he's coming home. This is great. And it's just
Chikrin's
like,
a Florida boy anyways.
right? And
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I think that they need to do something big with those two picks, whether it be a trade. So, like we're hearing a bunch of stuff with Olmark, but I think there's a lot of pressure on Ottawa personally.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And I definitely did think about it. And, one of the reasons I didn't is that I think that they could really consider moving it, right? So like that pressure is similar to Utah is that like they need to do something, right? And like Steve Staios, like I was actually on with the Senators podcast last week, and they're like, everyone's calling him Sleepy Steve, like he's not doing anything. And it's like, it's not, that's not false. Like he's been on the job for like a year now, but I like to think about like Brian Burke, where he would kind of get a new job and he would wait a year and then he'd make a big splash. Right? Whether that was drafting Chris Pronger, trading for Phil Kessel, doing all the draft wizardry to get the Twins. Like that was always at the end of his first year or the beginning of his second year. And so I think this is the time for Staios to like really like put his mark on this team. And like maybe that's moving 7th overall, but they better not move it for Allmark. They better not give up a top 10 pick for Allmark. I like Allmark, but it's like goalies just don't have that kind of value. Mm-hmm. Especially when Boston is handcuffed, they know they have to pay Swayman. It's like you can't go and give that. So I hope they don't do something crazy like that. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Huge pressure on Ottawa from all fronts right now.
This is a great transition, Cam, to two questions I had. So it's Sharks, Ducks, Flames, Senators, Flyers, Habs, Hawks. I think are all picking twice in the first round. So I'm really curious on your thoughts on, is it like, are those guys, are you looking at, and the other one I was going to ask was an eye on trades. So I'll ask them together. Are those guys going to be trying to move their picks? Are those teams definitely using them? What are you seeing with all those teams picking twice? Because there's a big opportunity to make a huge impact on your roster with 2 first-round picks this year.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think Calgary is like going to hold both their picks and just like get a couple of dudes.
Yeah.
But, we saw Chicago already move up from 20 to 18, right? So like they have way too many picks. And, they're starting to accrue a lot of prospects. Like you only have so many contracts, right? So many contract spots you can have. So like if you draft 15 guys in one draft, it's like you can't sign them. You need to spread it out. So like sometimes we'll see teams like just be like, we'll trade you this year's 5th for next year's 5th. Like to spread it out, right? But like Chicago's definitely one I'm watching to move up again, because that was super strange to me, because we don't see those trades where someone moves up 2 spots to give a free second rounder a month before the draft. Like they haven't even made their final board yet. You don't know who's going to be there.
So true.
Right?
So true. Yeah.
Right. So like if it's like at pick 16 and you're like, oh, we want this guy, and you can't get up to 17, you'll be like, okay, screw it. We'll jump up to 18 and hope he's there. And, so like I could see them like, just like they obviously have somebody in mind that they are going to keep inching up the board. And, I was trying to pull it out of Kyle Davidson in Helsinki there. You wouldn't give it up. Yeah. But, they're definitely a team that I could see moving around and having some fun with their picks, that second one and some of their second round picks. The other ones, I mean, Ottawa, right? Yeah. Especially that 25th overall. Like that one has to be in play if they're looking to shake some things up, right? Like that one has to be in play.
That could go for Allmark, right?
Right. That one, I wouldn't be mad about that. And I'm sure Boston wouldn't either, right? That they can slip themselves. Like that's their pick, I think. I'm pretty sure
it is. It's Boston's pick.
Yeah. So like they could get their pick back, and I'm sure they'd be okay with that. That would be pretty good value, because goalies just don't have value. It sucks, but like
it does, and I don't really understand that, because it's, especially when you talk about in division, it's such a funny situation when you go, okay, so Allmark, what it should be is Boston looks at it as, wow, we have this unbelievable situation. We have 2 certified blue chip starting goalies. We should trade one of them for someone. And when you look in division to Ottawa, you're like, if you give Ottawa Ulmer, you make Ottawa 10x better. And yet there's this weird thing that's like Ottawa gets to be like this, well, we're not going to give you too much for that. And it's kind of, if you're Boston, I'd be like, well, fuck you and hang up on them. But they need to make a trade. And it's crazy. Like you're hearing Chikrin, you're hearing Pinto, you're hearing 25 and 7. I agree. 7 would be too high for Ullmark. Yeah. But I mean, like, you think about that 25th pick, and I'm like, if you're picking 7 and then Boston is going to hand deliver you a blue chip goalie 25 has to be on the table as far as I'm concerned.
I think that's fair, but like maybe it isn't.
Yeah,
right?
it might
just
not be.
because of
Who
the
knows?
situation. But like you're right, it's a good point that in division, like teams don't want to do that. They don't want to run into Allmark 6 times or whatever they have to play him that year.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, like when was the last time this happened? Was it Luongo Schneider when there was 2 like ace starters in one organization?
Yeah,
and Schneider like was like a star and young. And they got 9th overall that year. They got Horvat. And everyone was like waiting for Bettman to say, right? He's like, we have a trade to announce. Schneider to New Jersey for 9th overall pick. And everyone's like,
and what else?
And that was it, right? And so they got Horvat and it all worked out in the end. But yeah, that was at like peak goaltender value in a situation where it's like, you still only got that. So I definitely 9-7 would be outrageous. But yeah, I could see it even being like second in a prospect. Something like that, just like mid.
It's interesting because like Markstrom set the bar in a way with what was that, a second and
a first, a 25 first.
A 25 first, that's right.
25 first, yeah.
And they got, come on.
Kevin Ball.
Ball, thank you. And like Ball's, a 23-year-old defenseman that you're going to hope is playing, decent minutes. And like it's not Mercer, it wasn't Holtz. Like they didn't get something huge, but it was a first-round pick and a player. So it's like, I think Ullmark is the better goalie than Markstrom. He's younger than Markstrom. He's on a better contract. Like, blah, 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 blah.
He's definitely better.
But I'm like, if that's the case, then you are like, okay, give me a first and a player here. And Ottawa does have something to give. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm surprised that New Jersey didn't push harder for Ullmark rather than Markstrom.
Dude,
I actually like
same thing.
Markstrom. I mean, like I like him when he was in Vancouver, but like, he's fragile. Like
and
mentally, and he's older now too, obviously.
Dude. He's 34.
Right? He's not young, and like he's battled, and that's been like the case his whole career. Like I don't know if you guys remember, he was a top prospect, like one of the top-rated prospects, and he just like couldn't get it together for years and years, and that's how he ended up in Vancouver, right? Like Florida just was fun, like screw it, and they got Luongo back, and they gave Markstrom, and it looked like Vancouver was just like giving him away, and then he figured it out with the goaltending coach there in Vancouver. They kind of sorted him out. But, even this year, right? Like he just like went off the rails, just like wasn't stopping pucks. I don't know. Yeah. If it was me, I probably would have pushed harder for Ullmark.
Especially because Cam, and I'm super high on the Devils long term, but are they going to win a cup in the next 2 years? I don't think so. And that Markstrom is now he's 37 moving, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, totally. Or Saros or some of these other guys who are a bit younger felt like they could have fit that long-term projection for the Devils.
I'm with you.
Cam, is there any team that when you're talking to GMs, do you get the sense that any team has such a positional need that they would go that route over the best available route? Because we were looking like the Leafs haven't drafted a defenseman since 2018 in the first round. And like D has been killing them.
And what does Toronto need? And what have they needed the last 6 years? Defense.
So like, is that an example of a team that's at a point where it's like, we are taking D period, or no? Is it just like best available? Let's see how the board shakes out.
I mean, watch Toronto take like some like undersized forward at 23 or whatever they're picking, right? Like that wouldn't surprise me at all. They went Easton Cowan last year. That was their director of scouting. That was his last pick. And then he was out the door. I think he went to Pittsburgh following Dubas. And we kind of laughed. Like we thought he was like just dropping a shit and not flushing right out of the way. But like Easton Cowan's made us look like fools. So he looks good. So, but they obviously, I think they are going off their list. So I wouldn't say it's like they're picking a D, even though a kid like Charlie Elick, who's like this big, like mean, good skating, right shot defenseman. Like he's a super plus rated skater. Like, he's, he doesn't handle the puck all that great, but it's like, that kid's probably going to be sitting there. So looking at the board, like, I don't know if there's anyone that really like screams, like we're going to go Seattle. Seattle. I could see Seattle targeting a defenseman.
I agree.
Not no matter what, but like I think that they would be, and they're going to be, picking at 8. They're probably going to have if it's Dickinson, if it's Salayev, maybe Zebuyam. I think like they'll have a couple maybe options, or at least
get a look at
one
a bunch of them. Yep.
Right, and they'll take one of them. I think so. I think Seattle will, regardless of if Demidov slips or something like that, that they would probably still go D.
So then, finally, for you, do you think we see a top 10 pick traded?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Me too.
Let's do that. Hey, let's do that.
Hey, let's do it, boys.
Do.
Fuck it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, why not, right?
I don't know why. I've just got a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And it's because I think Utah is going to be all like new owners, like just going to be tossing around some cash. And like, maybe he's like 6 overall plus something else for Mitch Marner. Let's go, boys. Like, like maybe he gets funky, or Ottawa at 7 or the Devils at 10. Right there, I think New Jersey clearly with that Markstrom trade, they're like, it's go time. Like,
fuck yeah!
100%.
You don't make that trade. Obviously, like the year before, they put up 105 points, and they looked like they were taking these big steps. And now it's the step back with the young players. And it's like, no, we can't waste these windows. You got Jack on a great contract, Nico's on a good deal. It's like, let's push. Right, Dougie's not getting any younger. So I think the Devils, I think the 10 would be in play for the right piece. It's just a little outside of the 10, but I think Buffalo's pick is 100% in play.
Yeah,
at 11. But yeah, no, I think I like it. I'm hoping I'm just giving away my whole fucking article here. But I had another GM say that he thinks that like trades are going to dominate the story this draft.
I think I think so too, and I think you both said it. Like, I mean, you right there, Cam, and saying it, and then CP when you mentioned how many teams have 2 picks in this first round, that's fucking crazy. There's like 6 teams with 2 picks. Like,
that's a lot.
In what world are we not going to see some trades here? And I can't wait for the fireworks.
Oh, I love it when it gets spicy and there's drafts and all the fans are like, oh, the gasps, right?
Dude,
just like,
the board. Cam, think about it in the sphere, how big that's going to be. When it says trade alert, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to start convulsing in my seat.
It's going to be so good. We're going to be so sweaty, too. It's going to be so hot.
Yeah. Cam, last one from me. What's a sick bet I can make? Demidov top 3. Like, I'm trying to find something with good odds that we think is going to hit.
Yeah. Demidov top 3. I put that in there because if he doesn't go 2, like everybody's like, oh, Anaheim's going to go Salayev or they're going to go like I don't think that's true. It was pretty funny. Last year in Nashville, I was doing this show. I was doing like just like this video on and I'm sitting at this in the hotel lobby and I went there because it had better internet. And right next to me is like all the GMs. So like Verbeek standing next to me. I can't remember who else he was standing with, but so literally like Pat Verbeek was like within an arm length from me and they're asking me questions about pick 2 and like, what are you hearing about 2? And I'm like, I gotta be a little careful because I got Patty Verbeek right next to me, but we're hearing that they're going to do their own thing here, that it's not a slam dunk for Fantilli. And that was like the buzz that they were really looking hard at Mishkov, and there might've been like some buzz or he was just like, I'm not really interested in coming. So they didn't do it. But I think that Anaheim team, like they don't care. Like they're just going to go pure upside. And like, can you imagine like their center depth already?
Oh my God,
right?
dude.
McTavish, Leo Carlson, Cutter Gauthier. It's like, you go ahead and like infuse Ivan Demidov with that group, like sign me up. So like, I think that would be a hell of a pick for them. And like on the blue line too, they've got like loads of players on the blue line.
Loads,
right? Olin Zellweger's is like a beast, right?
Yep.
Like Pavel Mityukov is like legit. Like he's a number 1 D.
Oh yeah, he's so legit. I'm telling you, I've been saying this all year long. Look out for the Anaheim Ducks, man. In the next,
they're a sleeper.
Like they are
just hurt all
firing.
Year.
They are coming straight
they're
up
coming
the board. No question.
I think so too. Right. And once they get Johnny Gibson out of town, it'll be Lucas Dostal time in Anaheim, right? He's had himself a hell of a world championship. I've been pumping that kid in fantasy for years. I think I sold him when he was like 19 for like a real player because I just used my words to convince my friends to give me their current stars for these young prospects.
There you go.
And that's the ticket there.
All right. Well, Cammie, this is one hell of a breakdown. If I wasn't already pumped for this draft, I am absolutely juiced now. Is there anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to say before we pop off and then see you down in Vegas?
When's the article come out?
Yeah.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to do this because this is what I get paid for is that we've got, the Elite Prospects Draft Guide. That's the ticket, boys. Like it comes with a premium subscription to EP. You get all the written stuff we do at Rinkside. You get all the advanced stat filters. You get all the video. You get all the content like our draft guide, our fantasy guide. You feed my family the better it does, the better my contract negotiations are going to go after the draft.
Taking 2 ferries to hockey practice,
right?
Dude. Come on.
Right? That's not cheap. Putting kids, they got to buy sticks every like couple of weeks, God. It seems like. But no, that's the deal. We got 50% off right now too on an EP premium subscription.
Oh, there we go.
Right. So you got to get on that.
Yep.
And then obviously like, I'll be just like pumping out content this week.
Oh yeah.
I'll be on every radio show and podcast imaginable. I got a big Trevor Connolly film room coming out this week too.
Where can
3-round mock draft?
Where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, man. Hockey_Robinson on Twitter. I run the Elite Prospects TikTok account. I took that over this year, started it from nothing. And now we're just making silly content on there and having a good time.
Beauty.
You guys were on a video there at the All-Star game.
Yes,
We had
sir.
some fun.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So yeah, check us out, Elite Prospects. They own me, and it's the best gig I've ever had. And we're gonna have a good time in Vegas here.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, everyone,
Amazing.
dial into Elite Prospects, follow Cam on all the socials, and then Cammy, we will see you in Vegas.
It's gonna be fun.
Can't wait.